Hey everyone, this is Arado. Before we start with the video, I wanted to thank Denny Draws for the awesome basalt art that I'm using for this video. Please check out her Twitter page. She does a lot of awesome art ranging from Final Fantasy XIV, Live Alive, and of course, as you saw, Romancing Saga as well. So thank you, Denny, for this awesome art. Alright, with that aside, I wanted to discuss with all of you a slightly different topic about the game mechanics and hard party composition. We have 4 topics to discuss, and the first 2, I'm just gonna breeze through them and then just highlight a couple points. The latter 2 is where I'm gonna focus on and try to provide as much information as I can, of course, by still staying brief with the topic. So we will be covering status attributes, status ailments, buffing and debuffing and what stacks, and then hard content party composition. First up with the status attribute with this table that I presented here. This is what I thought of would be the best way to summarize what each of the attribute does, and then what are the effects for the, say for each of the attribute, what would it do for specific weapons. So say for strength, it increases damage for all weapons except for gun, short sword, bow, and magic type martial arts, and so on. You can read through the table by pausing this video, or if you need a refresher on what the attribute does. One thing to note is if the weapon icon is displayed for a skill, then that means it's a physical attack, and if it's an element icon, it's a spell type of attack. Next one is the status ailment rundown. Again, unfortunately it's a wall of text and I tried to summarize it and shorten it so that it's easier to understand. So just read through them if you need a refresher for what each does. But one thing I wanted to highlight is stun. So I think we all know that stun would disable a target for that turn. But the one thing we don't know is it also nullifies all your defenses. The way the game defines that is defense stance is nullified. So I just wrote it in a way that it's 0 defenses for any succeeding attacks for the turn. So if you remember during the summer showdown, Summer Jamil was a hard enemy to deal with because of the stun. He would start the battle with AoE stun and then you just get wrecked with high damage. That high damage is because you have 0 defenses being stunned. Alright. Next one is the buffing, debuffing, and what stacks. So like I said earlier, if you have a good understanding of what each attribute does, then you would be able to appropriately buff and debuff your party to, optimize the performance. This might be an outdated strategy, but if you debuff the enemy's accuracy and then you buff the party with agility, of course with the rapid stream formation, then you would be doing the dodge strategy, which are applicable to really hard enemies for you to be able to take them down slowly while dodging. Unfortunately, what defeated this strategy is the next point, which is the Defy Weakness skill. So this skill removes all debuff that you applied to an enemy. One workaround to tackle this is to use Moral Down or Attack Stance Down. So currently, only Melissa has Moral Down, and then only Igomal has Attack Stance Down. And those two debuff don't get removed if the enemy uses Defy Weakness. And then for the next point, I know this one was shared to me during one of my stream where I was using multiple moral up, and then the viewer was saying, oh, they don't stack. And then yeah, sure enough, when I check the character, it says right there it doesn't stack. So for those two skills, Moral and Guard Up, only the highest effect would apply. And then to the next point, if you use Moral Up and Attack Boost Up, those two would stack. And then same goes for Guard and Defense Boost. Those two would stack as well. So use that to your advantage, especially say for farming. Liam would start the round with attack boost. So if you have somebody else doing Moral Up for whatever reason, like say Fuse with the skill 3, it's a fast skill, so you would be buffed with Moral Up. It can stack with Liam's attack boost for the party as well. And then lastly, if you buff the same attribute multiple times, whether it be for the same turn or for the consecutive turns, it would continue to stack. And of course that applies to debuffing as well. And lastly, I wanted to tackle the hard party composition. So right now, as you know, with how the attacks are designed, a lot of them are either really hard to apply debuff with, or they just defy weakness a lot of times that debuffing doesn't make sense. So sometimes you would go for the turtle strategy and you would need the tiger cage or the tortoise shell formation to do that. And then on top of a good formation, you would need these units that I would recommend, like free heal units, buffer, debuffer, BP battery, and so on. So free heal units are on top of the list because, you know, to last a long battle, you need to keep on healing without using your LP. And then for buffers, it's mainly to buff defensive attributes and buffs, if anything. So that would be most likely be Matriarch's role, you know, depending on the battle, especially if you're trying to battle against a physical and a magic type attack. You can tackle it in a way where you buff yourself with magic attacks and then just muscle through the physical attack because it's more manageable than the magic attacks. So Matriarch would be doing Paean of Peace every turn if possible. And then same goes for debuffer. So for debuffer, a lot of times you just want to bring moral down or attack stance down characters. However, in the last attack in JP, for example, it was the Matcha and Marigan attack. So you would need int debuffing for Matcha because she keeps on buffing herself, making her more deadly per turn. So for you to survive, you need at least an int debuffer, regardless whether she cleanses it the following turn when the turn starts. That slight int debuffing would help you survive even with moral down applied to her. And then BP battery, I think it's the same definition as the free heal unit, where you would want to be using the correct skills, buffing and debuffing accordingly, or doing attacks if needed. And what's better to have that than to have someone be able to give you more BP than just 3 BP per turn. And then the bottom of the list is DPS, and I think we would still need DPS for a battle. Right now, like I said in my Liam review, Liam would be your sole DPS for hard content, unless there are other DPS that would be doing more damage than Liam because for whatever reason that the enemy is resistant to blunt or slash. And then lastly, healers. So other than free heal unit, you would want to have healers with you just so you can heal a bigger amount or even revive dead units if in case something goes wrong. I already mentioned about good formation, so depending on the battle, pick your formation. If you need defenses, probably Tiger Cage or Tortoise Shell, or if you want to be more aggressive, pick a more aggressive formation like say Rainbow Ranger. And then lastly, proper gearing. So depending, like I said, if you you would be able to long tap an enemy, and then you would be able to see what their abilities and skills are, and then you would be able to see what elements they would deal with. If you gear properly depending on the attack, like say for Real Queen in Remembrance Battle, I would always recommend to gear with Pierce and Blunt and then Slash, well, Pierce and Slash and then Minor to Blunt. And it's because of how they attack, and if you gear properly, then you have more chances of surviving their attack on top of debuffing an enemy, you know. So yeah, that's the quick topic I wanted to discuss. Hopefully you picked up something from this video. If not, it's fine too. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or any suggestions. This was actually a fun topic for me to discuss because I always wanted to share what my thought process are whenever I come up with a party, whether it be a hard content or for, you know, fast farming. I know I already did a fast farming video, so hopefully that would be helpful for you as well. But yeah, thank you so much everyone, and I'm sorry I exceeded 10 minutes. Yeah, let me know your thoughts and see you in the next video.